Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. This is Pauline here again, and this time with a topic that I'm crazy passionate about, and it is using Bazi to help us transition from employee to self-employed or even an entrepreneur. So, by way of introduction, in case this is the first time we're meeting, hello, my name is Pauline Cheng. I was formerly a career professional in the communications sphere. Today, I have successfully transitioned to owning my own business as a Bazi and Feng Shui practitioner. But this video is not about me sharing my journey. Instead, it's about helping you plan that transition as well. So, because the move from employee to self employed is something pretty important in period 9. Now, before I get into the why of this, I just want to straight up tell you that this video is for you if you are currently an employee seeking to plan your pivot, because the most successful transitions from employee to self employed needs to be planned. Of course, there will be some who may be forced onto the entrepreneur path, retrenchment, all those other career challenges. Now, in that case, some of the pointers here can also help you, but please understand that you may not have the luxury of time to properly plan the transition. So, let's talk about why it is so important to start planning the pivot as soon as possible, shall we? Okay, now having diversified income is so very important in period 9, right? There are many reasons, of which the three most urgent. Number one, business cycles are shorter in period 9, unlike period 7 and period 8, where businesses can go on and on and on in the same manner with little to no changes. Business cycles in period 9, however, are crazy short, which means that most people can no longer bank on lifetime employment. And even if the company stays, there is this never ending cycle of reorgs and shuffle and change and mergers and takeovers. It's stressful and the list is endless, right? Now, I don't really enjoy pushing the hustle culture, but in this case, right, the only job security these days is the one that we create for ourselves. Suffice to say that this decision is literally, as I say in point two, destiny in whose hands? Destiny in my own hands or destiny in other people's hands? I seriously, if we're talking about job security, we should be looking at your boss's chart instead of yours, because last time when I was a career professional, I knew my boss's chart better than my own course. What's the point of me having a great year, but his chart is not doing well? Then right. So now, and also ageism. In the past, when an economic contraction happens, most companies will tend to start their retrenchment among the younger staff. Not anymore. These days, it's the group who are around mid 40s to mid 50s that are most at risk, because your salary is high. Okay, many companies now look to keep the younger people because for no other reason than they're cheaper than you. Okay, so from a budget point of view, this is also the age group that is most vulnerable to any adverse interactions in the chart. All right, let me give you an example. This is a sample chart. Okay, think Fire Day Master. Right, let's say we have a chart like this. Right, pretty vulnerable every time the dragon year shows up. You have the clash to the dog, you have a self punishment at the dragon, you have a harm to the day, and a destruction to the hour. Now, watch. During the younger years, the changes brought about by the dragon happens very naturally. Let's track it, all right? 1988. During the younger years, changes brought by the dragon would probably be at 6 years old, going to kindergarten. Life turned upside down, crying inside kindergarten, crying for mommy. Mommy's outside at the window watching, maybe. Okay. Next dragon year, exciting, year 2000. Friend is now 18, going to university, going to college. All right. Again, life changes completely, but it's fun now, right? So next dragon year, 2012. Now at 30, a major career move, maybe move to another country. Very exciting for this person. The following dragon year, 2024, now at 42. Stability, will naturally be this person's primary focus, which means that at this point, a lot of energy will be expended to stay at status quo. This is the time when we start to become vulnerable to these interactions in our chart. So let's extend one more dragon year. Our friend now at 54. Last time, believe it or not, people literally retire at that age. Okay. These days, with inflation and all, who can afford it? Right? Oh my God, at this age, we need to pay for our parents, pay for our kids' education, our all kinds of expenses, and plus lifestyle. At this age, or we've become used to a certain lifestyle, for example. So, would this be vulnerable? Yes, vulnerable. Looking at this pattern, shouldn't the transition be happening somewhere around here after, around the mid 40s, around there? It's different for every chart, okay? This is merely an example chart. But for sure, at around this age, there is a need to start paving the way to have diversified income, okay? So, best when planned, because a transition from employee to self employed is always most successful when it is planned. Even with the help of 八字, Qimeng, and Feng Shui, expect the entire process to take at least 1 or 2 years. 3 years is about normal also for most transitions, depending on how much time you have to invest. Okay, because there will be pitfalls and temptations along the way. Okay, now rule number one: it's always easier to start as a side hustle. We humans tend to think in linear terms, like in a linear fashion, right? We think that we start and it's going to go, right? But in reality, the transition will require this period of nothing, of invisible progress, right? Before things really take off, right? My first year offering Bazi consults to people, seriously, guys, zero clients. Okay, now because during this period of invisible progress, there will be lessons to be learned. We have problems to solve, challenges to overcome. We need to pay our dues, so to speak. So, where the invisible progress ends and the visible progress starts depends on the type of business. For most, this point may happen when you start getting a regular flow of clients. For others, it may be the point where you successfully attract investors and fundings. Now, in Bazi Consults, clients like to ask, when is a good time to start a business? Honestly, if this is a side hustle, really, guys, starting in a bad year is actually better. Of course, with the caveat that the business doesn't require a big capital outlay. Okay, so see, we have this tendency to think that, oh, okay, there is this magic time where if you start and we get immediate results, everything is fantastic. It doesn't work that way. Yes, we can tell when the energy favors a certain chart, but if you wait until that favorable time to start, it's a little bit wasteful, right? By the time that nice timing hits, we want to have already paid our dues, have skin in the game, and this is called ready to roll, right? So, what we want to do is to try to shorten this invisible progress period as much as possible, which leads us to rule number two. Okay, 八字 chart or no 八字 chart, this is a fact. It's always easier to build from our core competencies than to start completely afresh. Now, remember, okay, we're trying to cut down on the time of the invisible progress, not expand it by having to learn something new. Okay, so if you're great at numbers, let's start from there. If you have experience implementing systems, let's go with that. Have got great at training, let's double down on it. Okay, we can pivot our careers, sure, but it is easier to pivot around a core competency. All right, at which point those people who know me will be saying, like, hey, what gives? All right, Pauline, you're not taking your own advice. You went from motorsports to 八字. Okay, in my own defense, my core competency in motorsports was content creation. As head of communications, I was the official storyteller of the championships, right? And my responsibilities were to tell the stories of the championships and riders through either the written word in press releases, short digital content on social media, long form storytelling in videos and live telecasts. So all I had done in my mind was pivot around that core competence instead of telling motorsport stories. Apparently now I tell metaphysics stories. They both start with M. We're good, right? So this part of the decision making, it's not really necessary to ask the Bazi chart. Remember, Bazi is a tool. Once the core competency is identified, then we use Bazi to tweak the idea so that we use the natural strengths of the chart as well as the current energies infusing the chart, okay, in order to make progress. So there are many different ways to do that from a Bazi chart, which is why these types of social media sharing can be a little bit limiting because it creates a fixed mindset that there is only one way to do something. But mine is a Bazi channel after all. So to give you a general guide, okay, once the core competency has been identified and an idea for the side hustle or business has been solidified, then we use the Bazi as a guide. Typically, we will check the following, not all three. You don't have to check all three, all right? But we use this three as a guide. Number one, the hour pillar. Okay, especially if this is for an older client looking to create a second career, okay, because the hour pillar is the legacy pillar, right? Number two, I would also check the top three or four 10 gods profile because that's the biggest strength. So we try to fit the idea to the top 10 gods profile. And the next one is I would also double check to see if the current and upcoming luck pillars support this idea. So you see, again, um, your Bazi is a tool, doesn't carry a precise answer like this is what you should do in life. That decision is yours to make as the chart owner. We use the Bazi to make it faster, make the process smoother. Okay, I don't deny that back in the day, period seven, period eight, yeah, they tend to do it that way. But let's not forget, choices back then were so limited. Okay, I still remember many decades ago when I graduated high school, there were only two options in front of me: go for teachers training and be a school teacher, or get a diploma in bookkeeping and go work in a bank. Okay, I have a diploma in bookkeeping. I've never worked in a bank. I can't keep my books for nuts. Okay, so yes, last time 八字 was used this way: lock someone into a role, a lot of resource, be a teacher, a lot of wealth staff, work for a bank, count money for a living. Okay, so but today the goal of a 八字 reading is not to lock you into a role. The aim is to give you as much wriggle room as possible. All right. So when it comes to wriggle room, this is not the only way to use your 八字 chart. We can also tweak the plans in the following manner. Okay. This other method using the five elements is quite useful when the person has no clue, or when they like, I really don't want to work with my core competency. Cool. All right. So to do this, what we can do is we look for the strongest element in the chart. If it's water, explore trading because the nature of water is to flow. So think about anything that requires an exchange of goods, people, ideas, right? If wood is the strongest element, um, because wood governs growth, all right, the person can explore doing something with education or training, anything that grows people. Okay, fire is the strongest element. Anything that transforms lives is awesome, or anything that could involve tech. Metal is the strongest, all right, where then anything that deals with making things happen, execution, because the role of metal is literally to cut through all the BS. If earth is the strongest, then any business or side hustle that helps people create stability and security, right? So here's the problem. Here's the joke of the universe. In most charts, the most prosperous element is typically unfavorable. It's not unlucky, it's unfavorable. Unfavorable means I don't like it. Okay, so there's a bit of a mental resistance to it. So when in a one-on-one session with clients, usually what we do is we would lay out the different options and explain what they mean to them, and then so that again the aim is to put information in the client's hands so that they have a choice, right? Now, if this sounds too simplistic, we can add in another layer with the five structures as such. Okay, five structures is, after all, the modus operandi of the person. So, if the individual is a companion structure, being a deal maker is a good avenue to explore. Output structure, maybe sales or anything creative. Wealth structure, make things happen, be the one who pulls in the resources together, fix the timeline, guarantee the delivery, those kind of stuff. Influence structure, help people implement rules, workflows, work process. You get to boss people around. Very good. Resource structure, due to the overwhelming love of information, teach or train. Can we meld this together? Sure. Let's say the strongest is fire and it happens to be output for the person. So sales plus transformation equals, maybe consider doing some affiliate sales for the latest tech or for the latest app, because someone with this type of chart is very likely to be an early adopter of technology. Another example, metal is the strongest and it happens to be resource, right? So teach people how to do things. So as you can see, we can use these in a myriad of ways. Okay. Again, to remind everyone, when we use these information from the Bazi chart as a guide, the goal is to shorten the invisible progress period, which leads to the next rule, right? Please keep your costs low. Okay, I know it's, you're thinking like, hey, this goes without saying, right? I apparently needs reminding. Okay, because during the invisible progress period, you may not be earning much. You need to be okay with it. Every business starts this way. So really need to keep your costs low as much as possible, which is why we always say that it's easier to start something with low costs, such as a consultancy or maybe a small training agency, where any business where basically the capital is more time rather than dollars. It's great to have the big ideas, but big ideas require a lot of leverage to get you started. So if you are intent on working with a big idea, then keeping the cost low should be at the stage where you are pitching to investors. All right, so before I move any further, I'm sure you have questions by now. What if I want to be a day trader? That seems to be the job of the moment. I want to be a day trader. Okay. Day trader, we don't really use these type of rules. All right. Um, see, with trading, the moment the money leaves our bank account, it leaves the control of our Bazi chart. Understand? Okay. The moment I invest my money in an external company, my Bazi chart loses control of that money. Okay. So when it comes to day trading, if you want to be a day trader, then in that case, the use of Bazi is to look at number one, what is this chart's decision making process? Number two, right? What is the modus operandi of this person? Number three, how does this chart handle stress? Number four, how does this chart manage emotions? Okay, so that would be a different ballgame, maybe a different content. But back to employee to self-employed. Okay. Rule number five, very, very, very important rule. Consistency trumps virality. All right. This is about showing up day after day after day, even in the early stages when you seem to be investing maximum output with minimum input. Okay. Too many people these days give up too soon, I think. All right. So where we put our energy is where we will reap the results. So if you dedicate like 2 hours every night to your side hustle, there will be results. Okay, even with online advertising, if we advertise on YouTube, it takes 7 to 8 exposures before brand recall is established. That's how important consistency is. Without online advertising, going on pure organic growth, sometimes a client can follow you for 3 to 4 years before they decide to buy in. Okay, so consistency is so important that in consults, I always try as much as possible to make the next steps as small as possible. Don't snub the small stuff. It's always the small steps that take us where we want to go. So, can Patsu help with this? Yes, we can use the natural strengths of the 10-day masters, like so. Okay, Jawwood Day Master, like the tree that represents them, is typically slow and steady. There will be periods where nothing seems to happen, nothing like they are in hibernation, and then boom, something great pops up. So they tend to do a lot of this behind the scenes work quietly in the background, very unassuming, and then whoosh, something great show pops up. So with the Jawwood, the trick is to ensure that the behind the scenes work does not stop. Yewood Day Masters rely a lot on speed but can be a little bit indecisive. Okay, so they typically, because Yewood Day Masters are very flexible. Okay, so they find it easy to change direction very quickly. So with the Yiwood, best to work with a mentor to provide validation, provide guidance, or at the very least, an accountability buddy. Okay, Pink Fire Day Masters, the champions of consistent, like the sun, day in, day out, the same. Bake the side hustle into the daily routine, and we are good. The trick with the Pink Fire is that we need to consistently check that the daily routine is still serving the purpose. Okay, Think Fire Day Master likes to start a million things at once, like fire going for oxygen. Right. So with the exception of the thing, most Think Fire Day Masters would be unhappy if we immediately try to limit you to one or two ideas. So therefore, one possible strategy for the Think Fire is to start with many and then hone down. Okay, so Wu Day Masters, like the mountain that represents you, are a dependable and solid personality. So the transition starts by building a reputation for a certain expertise. Once this reputation is established, the projects will tend to come. Ji Day Master, oh, rewind back to Wu. Okay, building the reputation means people must acknowledge that you are an expert in that. Okay. So, okay. Back to GS. GS Day Masters loves group actions. Many people working, playing together is the GS idea of heaven. Most GS. Because the GS is the most nurturing of the 10. So, any environment where you can nurture others and be nurtured in return is how the GS can be consistent. Gung Metal Day Masters. Enduring, tough, action taker. Gung Metal Day Masters have got a lot of strength, endurance, and stamina, so have a plan of action. Put the plan together, right? And do what Gung Metal does best. Just keep chopping, execute, execute, execute. Okay, Sin Metal Day Masters may look vulnerable and precious, but can be just as tough as their Kung Metal counterparts. But keeping the Sin Metal's nose to the grindstone will be so wasteful of one of the Sin Metal's top gifts. Sin Metal Day Masters are gifted networkers, therefore, use the power of the network to spur the competitive instincts of the Sin Metal. Next, Rainwater Day Masters can be very action oriented and at the same time rebellious. Think of a powerful body of water like the sea, like a tsunami that can literally change the entire landscape. So this rebellious streak kicks in when the rainwater is inspired to challenge the norms. Okay, Water Day Masters, full of ideas and interests, loves mental stimulation, ultimate free thinkers, because the Clearwater has so many ideas, it's imperative that you really must love what you intend to do. Otherwise, the Clearwater will get bored and look for other things. Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying this sharing, do me a solid, hit that like button, please. Okay, so now, rule number 5, also important. During the transition period, most of us will be solo entrepreneurs or sole proprietors. Means everything is us. provide the service, the product, the accounting, the marketing, one man show or one woman show. So the feast famine cycle in a fledgling business happens when the business model is not yet stable. And we spend most of our time providing the service, leaving no time for consistent marketing efforts. So what happens is we have a feast period where there are hopefully too many clients, and then followed by a famine period where there are no customers because there was no time for marketing during the feast period. So, no doubt some business models are cyclical or seasonal by nature. So, with this, we have to think of either managing our cash flow well, or there must be concerted effort to keep marketing no matter how busy you get. And honestly, these days, with so many tools to help us, it really is possible to create a funnel where you keep getting consistently keep pulling in the leads. Okay, now, okay, to end this sharing, I'd like to address some common myths or misconceptions about being self-employed. Now, the first I've addressed the fact that progress is not linear. You need to be aware of that period of invisible progress we talked about early in this video. Now, this one. Many people think that when we are self employed, you will have more time and more freedom. I'm calling BS on that. If your personal time, weekends, vacations are important to you, actually, it's better to stay employed and find another way to have diversified income. Okay, so it could be diversified income could come in the form of rentals, could come in the form of royalty, those kind of stuff. Okay, because running a fledgling business is a full time job. It's the same as taking care of a newborn, it never stops. This is especially true when you are working alone. Okay, you'll be going at it 24/7. Trust me, I know. Okay, now, next. This next myth happens primarily with people who have been employed for all their working lives, especially those who have spent the bulk of your career in the same organization or industry. When we work for an organization, people deal with us because we represent that organization. The relationship got built because we represent that organization. And when we leave, there is no guarantee that the relationships you have built in the past will follow you to your new business. Of course, it can be done, but I'm sharing this point because I would like to remove the rose tinted glasses, right? And have a clear cut distinction between your professional networks and the business networks. Okay, so next myth, self employment is risky. Actually, yes, self employment may be risky. Being employed is also risky because as an employee, we entrust our job security, income potential, and employment to other people, right? Like I told you earlier, when I was an employee, I know my boss's parts chart better than my own because his chart more important than mine. Okay, so yes, since we're talking parts here, a lot of people will say that, hey, listen, is my chart suitable to do business? Okay, if we follow traditional 八字 interpretation, honestly, of all the 八字 charts in the world, you probably hit about 20% charts where it is suitable to run a business. For all the rest of us, we need to learn. So if we are self-employed, basically we're taking on this risk on ourselves. So to mitigate this fear, this is where rule number one comes in. It's better to start as a side hustle because when we start as a side hustle, you still have a safety net. Give yourself time to test the validity of your business idea. But of course, in that sense, then you have to sacrifice some resting time and some sleep. Okay. So last conventional advice is to have at least 6 months living expenses covered. This 6 months rule is for those who need to find a new job. They are assuming that it will take you about 6 months to get a new job. If you are in transition to becoming self employed, a year's worth of expenses is more comfortable. Having this buffer helps to remove the stress of money flowing out, and it's like, oh my god, no, we don't, all of us don't need that stress. Okay, so That's it for my sharing. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like this type of sharing, then please tell me in the comments because I would love to create it for you. Until I see you in my next video, you have a great day ahead. Bye.